everyone. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new. I'm Maria, aka Berry Budgets. I'm a 33-year-old, recently married woman living in the New York, New Jersey area. My husband and I are on a journey to become debt-free from mounds and mounds of student loan debt, and hopefully sometime soon buy our first home together. If that sounds interesting to you, come and join in on our journey by hitting that subscribe button. We would really love to have you. Now, with that out of the way, today my husband thought it would be a good idea for me to make a debt confession video. So I figured, why not start off relatively new in the channel with it. So I have a piece of paper here, and the goal really is to go through everything that I had before meeting and marrying my husband, as well as everything that we kind of took on together as a couple. So with that being said, I guess I can kind of talk a little bit about my story first before I met him. So I basically how everything went is I decided that I wanted to become a pharmacist when I went to college, and that is a doctorate program. So that was a total of 6 years for me. If I was granted access into the program, it was just a 6-year program as opposed to an 8-year program. So it was an accelerated program. When I had graduated high school, I did get some, school like grants and scholarships and things like that when I first entered the college. So for the first 2 years, I didn't have anything that I needed to pay other than for books, transportation, things like that. I went to school in, the New York, New Jersey area, so it was pretty expensive, but that was a good thing. So for the first 2 years of school, I had no student loans, none whatsoever, which is awesome. Now, once I entered into the graduate portion of the schooling, that was when I had to take on student loans. And graduate programs tend to be pretty expensive, so I had a lot of different student loans, ranging from anywhere between as little as $1,000, I use that very loosely, 1,000 is a lot, but $1,000 to $12,000 per loan. So instead of writing all of that out, I had 26 different loans. So instead of writing that all of that out, I'm just going to lump it into one. So then that way I'm not here for, 15, 20 minutes writing out each individual loan and what their rates were. The rates also varied between probably 4% to I've had some as high as 7.5%, 8%, which I think is horrible for them to do to students who, let's be honest, none of us knew what we were doing. If you went to school and everything like that, most of us, I would say a high 90% did not know. But anyway, so I'm going to just jot down here. I'm going to put M, student loan. M is me. And altogether, all my student loans for the last couple years of my graduate program was $115,800. So that was the principal of the loan. That was what it was originally. I have I did end up paying all of this off, but I paid more than this, much more than this, and I'll get into that in a second, because I want to go in chronological order with how everything happened. So, so this was the amount that I had taken out. Now, I graduated in 2015, and later is actually when I met my now husband. He was living in the Midwest at the time, and we met online. It's a very cute story. Him and I met online. We both really like playing video games, and I had met him online playing video games. And maybe another time I can fully tell the story, but we hit it off a lot, and we ended up dating, and he moved out here. So his story is he was working and going to school at the same time. He was going to a community college, and he studied a couple of different things. He wanted to do firefighting, so he did EMT, did a firefighting course, wasn't able to get a job as a firefighter out in Kansas, and so he just was doing EMT work while he was trying to figure out what to do. He knew that he wanted to go back to college for something. He was thinking nursing, but he wasn't entirely sure what. So, he was thinking about that when he moved over here to the East Coast. So he moved over here to the East Coast, and I encouraged him to go back to school. At the time, rent wasn't super expensive on the East Coast, so at least in the area that we were living in. So I was able to cover rent and our, necessities and things like that while he went to school. And he also worked part-time at a hospital. So he went back to school, and he took out student loans. He took out a couple different types. He took out your federal student loans, and he also took out some private ones. So obviously he has quite a bit of student loans, but before all of that, I only had my car that I had gotten when I was in high school. It was an old beat up car. It did the job, but we needed two cars because I would drive to work, he would drive to work and school, so we needed two cars. So at that time we had taken out we had financed a car with, taken out a lease. That's it. Taken out a lease with Honda. So that, I'll just put down Honda. So we got a car together, and that was back in, I'll say 2020. No, not 2020. What am I talking about? That was in 2017. This was in 2017. I'm like losing my mind right now. So that car was $17,348, and that was at 6.10%. After we had finished going through the lease, we then decided to finance the car because we wanted to keep it. This 6.10% is the when we financed the car, not when we leased the car. Ignore what I had said. So the total of the car was $17,348 after we finished leasing the car. So when we had paid, I think it was like $180 a month or something like that for 2 years, and then, no, 3 years. And then in 2020, we financed the car. And this was the total amount that we had financed at 6.1%. And that was, at the time, it was $289 a month. And it took us from 2020, because it was 3 years, until 2023 to fully pay this off. So this is paid in full. Okay, so I'm just gonna, anything that's paid in full, I'm gonna highlight in gray. So then that way, we don't have to go back and say which one's which. So now we have my student loans, we have his car. The next thing is his student loans. So I'm going to write out his student loans individually because he still has some that he has to pay off. And his is much less than mine in terms of the number of student loans. So we'll go in order. So the federal student loans that he had were, I'm going to just number them. The first one was $5,500 at 5.05%. The next was $7,000. Put a little dollar sign here. And that one was at 5.05%. The third student loan for him was also $5,500 at 4.53%. The next one was $7,000 at 4.53%. The fifth student loan, $33,000 at 4.3%. And then the last federal student loan is $16,500 at 5.2, should be an 8%. So those are all of his federal student loans. Next, we have his private student loans. So I'm going to put I'm going to give a little bit, I'm going to do a little squiggle here so we know that these are private. 7. Okay, so his 7th student loan was $1,400 at 5.74%. The next was $1,300 at 5.29%. The next, 2,000 at 7.29%. That's a percent sign. And then the last is another 2,000 at 7.29%. Okay, so what happened is once he was finished with school, now during that time while he was in school and everything, I was paying off my student loans. Pretty early on, when I had gone out of school and before I started dating him, my monthly bill for my student loans was something ridiculous, like $1,400. It was really high, and I was I couldn't believe it. At the time, I was living at home with my parents, and I was commuting every day back and forth between New York and New Jersey. So I didn't have any rent to pay at the time. I didn't have any bills to pay at the time. I only had to pay the tolls, which I think was like $500, $600 a month to go every day of the week across the bridge. So I started paying off my student loans in 2015 when I graduated, and I had met my husband in 2017. So I had about 2 years worth of paying everything off. Now, the most I ever spent my money on was maybe once in a while going out to eat, because most of the time that I had that was free, I was reading books, playing video games, that sort of thing. So I really didn't spend a lot of money. I didn't really go out much. I guess, which in retrospect is a good thing because I didn't spend a lot of money. So over the course, I don't know over the course of the 2 years how much I had paid off, but by 2020, I had $10,000 left. Then the pandemic happened, and I figured, hey, everything's on pause. I'll just start saving up money for a house because there's no interest being accrued, so I'll start saving for a house, and then when it comes off, right, and I have to start paying on my loans again, I'll just pay the $10,000 and be done with it. And that's exactly what I did. So I had finished paying off all $115,800 in 5 years. Now, like I said, that wasn't the total amount that I had paid. So the total amount that I had actually paid, so I'll put actual over here, that ended up being $143,102.64. I paid almost $30,000 more in 5 years. In 5 years. I couldn't believe it. When I was pulling the numbers for this video, I couldn't believe that. $30,000 more. It makes my blood boil just to even think about it, but it is what it is. So that's the actual amount that I had paid. Now, a lot of my, once all of this stuff kind of got reinstated, starting after our wedding. So we got married last year in October, and that year we were saving for the wedding, paying for the wedding, and paying for our honeymoon. So all of our extra funds that we got went towards that. So this was only like really the minimum was being paid. Very little was being added to any of this. So we really started focusing on paying these off after we got back from our honeymoon. Okay, so now we're going to go over which one of these we have paid off. So first we'll start with the government loans. So this one's fully paid off. This one, and this one. So all that's left is these two. Okay. Then for the private, all of these are paid off. So our strategy was pay these off first. So our strategy was to pay this off first. We paid off the car first. And then after we finished paying off the car, because of how much it was a month, and at the time I think we only had like 10,000 left or maybe less. I'll be honest, I can't really remember. So we finished paying off the car first. And then we tackled the private loans because their interest, they were relatively small loans, but their interest rates were insanely high. So we tackled these next. And then we tackled these. So we didn't really, basically we did nothing. We used all of our money to just slam at everything that we could. Once rent and bills were paid and everything that needed to be taken care of was taken care of, every extra penny went towards all of this. That was before well, actually, no, that was around the time we started doing all of this budgeting. We had finished paying off this and maybe one or two of these before we started doing the cash envelope method and, being a part of that community on YouTube. And it really helped us see how much money we were spending on silly things like food and that sort of stuff. And so that's how we ended up paying all of these off. So now we only have 2 loans left, which is fantastic. Now, for his total, for all of his loans, so the principal of it, just so you guys can see the numbers, is $30,552.24. That's a comma right there. And then the total that he has paid so far, so let me put actual here, sorry, is $33,995.12. So there is a let me write it down here, the difference is $3,442.58 in the time span of, gosh, a couple years that he's had to, that is the interest that he's had to pay. But all in all, we have paid off, let's see, how much total have we paid off? So I think the best way to go about it is to add up. We'll look at both numbers. So say 115,800 plus 17,348 plus 35,52224. Oh God, that number makes me sick. $163,700.24. Now let's add up this. That's 143,102.64 plus 33,995, 12 plus, oh Lord, $17,348. $194,000. My goodness. Oh Lord, this is me looking at these numbers for the first time with you guys. That is how much total we have paid. I guess mainly the difference is just my student loans here. And honestly, this number is probably higher because I don't actually know if this number includes the total with interest that went towards this total, if you know what I'm saying. I don't know if it's like the actual number or the principal, but for all intents and purposes, I think that this is pretty, I mean, if anything, it would be closer to 200,000. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I think our goal from here on out is to continue to try to pay this off as quickly as possible because we have not really been successful in finding a house, more so that we just get outbid by crazy amounts in this area, and we're just going to return to renting and focus on paying these 2 loans off and, you know, seeing where it goes from there. Yeah, but I think that's everything. Hopefully soon all of this will be paid off and we can say with confidence that we are completely debt free. Yeah, I mean, that would be absolutely fantastic. That's the goal of all of this, isn't it? So that's everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, similar stories, similar experiences, I would love to hear it. You know, I think one of the things that I really like about this community is that everybody is really just trying to make their lives better, and it's incredibly supportive, and it's really it's made budgeting fun, and it's made budgeting not something that's scary, and not something that is something that isn't worth looking forward to. I look forward to getting my paychecks to budget them now, and I think that it's really just thanks to this community. So yeah, that's enough of my spiel, but if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Going to be coming out with some more videos so we can keep track of where my husband and I are in our journey. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.